These are the VITURE Luma Ultra AR XR glasses that promise a huge virtual screen setup without having to carry around an actual display. So today I'm testing what the VITURE experience really feels like, how well these smart glasses work in real life, and whether they're actually worth your attention. And before we get into the real test, if you want to check out the VITURE Luma Ultra for yourself, I have a special deal waiting for you in the description below. You can also scan the QR code that you see on screen right now, especially if you're curious whether these are the best smart glasses for your setup. So first, let me clear this up, because when people hear XR or AR glasses, they usually imagine something closer to a VR headset. That's not what this is. The VITURE Luma Ultra is a pair of AR XR display glasses that puts the virtual screen in front of me while I can still see the real world around me. So if you're wondering what are VITURE glasses, think of them less like a standalone computer and more like wearable tech that replaces the screen on my phone, laptop, or gaming handheld. To work, it needs a connected device, a phone, a laptop, a gaming console, or something like the VITURE neckband. And compared to similar Luma models, the Ultra is the most feature-packed version, with extra cameras and more advanced spatial features. But if you want a fully standalone headset, this is not that product. Now, once I understood what the Luma Ultra actually was, my brain moved on to perhaps the most important question about this product. Is the display good enough to justify wearing this thing in the first place? And this is where the VITURE Luma Ultra has a lot to prove, because for a lot of people, display quality is going to decide whether these feel like some of the best AR glasses out there or just another futuristic gadget with a cool concept. For its core tech, VITURE is using Sony Micro OLED panels, and that matters because this is the kind of display tech that helps text look cleaner, UI elements look sharper, and darker scenes hold on to contrast instead of turning into a muddy mess. So whether you're reading menus, watching a video, or just navigating apps, that extra pixel density is doing real work. Brightness also matters here, and VITURE rates these glasses at up to 1500 nits, which is pretty strong for XR glasses. These glasses might not magically beat direct sunlight, but they will provide high performance in moderately bright environments. Then there's the 1200p 4K-like part. And I'm being careful with wording here because this is not true 4K. What that really means is that the resolution is closer to 1200p, but the optics and pixel density help the image look sharper than people might expect on paper. So in practice, the goal here is not cinema-grade 4K on your face, but rather a display that looks crisp enough for everyday gaming, media, and productivity. Another big factor is the 50-degree field of view. That number helps determine how much of my vision the virtual screen takes up, and the wider it feels, the less this turns into a tiny floating box in front of my eyes. And that's a huge part of what makes the screen feel more immersive. And when VITURE talks about a 152-inch screen, that's also something I want to explain clearly. There's no literal giant screen here, it's perceived image size. Basically, the glasses are simulating a very large display positioned several meters in front of me. On top of that, I also get display controls for things like RGB, contrast, gamma, and color temperature, which is nice because it means I can actually fine-tune the image depending on what I'm watching or how I like the screen to look. And if this is already sounding like the kind of setup that you'd actually use, I've got an exclusive deal for the VITURE Luma Ultra waiting for you in the description below, or you can scan the QR code on screen right now if you want to check out the price and see what's included. Now, if the display is the reason that you want to wear these in the first place, the spatial features are what push the Luma Ultra beyond your basic screen glasses. This model adds a triple camera. That's one RGB camera and two depth cameras. And that's what unlocks the more XR-style side of the experience. I'm talking about 6 DOF tracking where the screen can stay anchored in place while I move around instead of just following my head like a floating monitor. On top of that, I get hand gesture controls for things like swiping, zooming, and interacting with content without having to constantly reach for another device. So this is where the Ultra starts feeling like more than simple screen mirroring. And VITURE builds Harman-powered open-ear audio right into the glasses, which means I can hear my content without fully shutting myself off from the world around me. So now that we've covered the hardware side, this is where the VITURE Luma Ultra XR AR glasses will either start making real sense or start feeling like a very expensive concept. Because in practice, using them is actually pretty simple. I connect the glasses to a phone, laptop, console, or something like the Pro neckband, and instead of looking at that device's built-in screen, I see a large virtual display floating in front of me. That's the whole idea. A big part of that experience is built around Spacewalker, and this is where things get more interesting. Spacewalker is the application made by VITURE specifically for the glasses. It supports Mac, Windows, mobile, and the Pro neckband, and instead of locking me to one virtual screen, I can create multiple screens around me, kind of like carrying a multi-monitor setup without needing any actual hardware. So if I want a more productivity-focused setup, that's really the software layer doing the heavy lifting. For gaming, the idea is pretty straightforward. The glasses act like a big private display, while the actual game is still running on whatever I've connected it to: a console, a PC, a handheld, or even a cloud service. So the Luma Ultra changes how I see the game, not how the game performs. The appeal is that I get a larger, more immersive looking screen in places where I normally wouldn't have one, especially when I'm traveling or working with limited space. For other entertainment, it's basically the same logic. Watching videos here means I'm seeing them on a big virtual screen instead of on a phone or laptop panel, which makes the most sense when I'm on the go, in a shared room, or anywhere I don't have access to a TV. And then there's the 3D side, where the system can convert regular content into 3D views in real time. I wouldn't frame that as a must-have killer feature, but it is a cool extra that changes how movies, photos, and even some games can look. And if I'm using it with the Pro neckband, I also get the content capture angle. That means I can record what I'm seeing, mirror it to a phone, and capture XR and MR moments in real time, which makes the whole setup feel a lot more than basic screen mirroring. So after going over everything, my VITURE Luma Ultra review comes down to this. These glasses are really built around delivering a large, sharp, virtual screen, and a lot of that comes down to the micro OLED panels, the brightness, and the field of view, making the whole experience feel more convincing. On top of that, the 6DOF tracking and gesture controls push this beyond basic display glasses and make the XR side feel more flexible. But at the end of the day, this is still a dependent system. I need a connected device and software like Spacewalker to get the full experience. So for me, the Luma Ultra makes the most sense for people who want a portable big screen setup for gaming, media, or multi-screen work, and not a standalone replacement for their other tech. And if you want to check it out for yourself, I've got a discount waiting in the description, or you can scan the QR code that you see on screen right now. If you want to see more reviews like this, check out the other tech videos here on the Cybernews channel. And if you're into wearable tech, smart gadgets, or just cool new devices that might actually be useful, there's plenty more to watch. See you next.